going to go down in the heavyweight history of skill, but it might go one down in the heavyweight history of heart. I mean, Adam Konecki is too brave, and there were times in the fight where I felt that it should have been stopped, but then he comes back in the fight and he starts hurting Cusimano, particularly to the body. And I thought Cusimano was actually really good because he took punishment, he was very fit, and he wanted it badly. And I felt that win, lose or draw tonight, that would be it for Adam, and I was desperate to see him win. And you can tell he's not the fighter he once was. And I think the towel maybe could have come in a little bit earlier. I think Keith Connolly wanted to stop the fight actually earlier, but the commission wouldn't let him because he doesn't have the right to do that. But it's very difficult when you know it's a fighter's last fight to not let him go out on his shield. But he absolutely went out on his shield, and I'm glad he's okay.
And could you give Berlanga a grade and then tell me your grade for how you found this trip to New York this time? You sold the freaking place out. That's never a bad thing. Your perception of Berlanga and coming here.
Edgar gave himself a C. I think it's a bit harsh being out for a year. I mean, Quigley's a good fighter. And when a fighter chooses to fight like that, crafty and off the back foot, it's very difficult to not get frustrated. And I felt like if there's one criticism of Edgar, it's between rounds 7 and 11, where he really didn't do a lot.
He was very tentative.
He was, and he was following him around with a jab. And the corner were telling him to close the distance and let his hands go, like he did in the 12. And every time he let his hands go, he hurt him. But he didn't do it enough.
Fought other rounds like that 12.
Yeah, the only thing is, I think when you fight in a guy, I'm not saying Jason didn't come to win, but when you fight in a guy that's coming forward, that's trying to knock you out as well, that's when you're going to see the best of Edgar Berlanga. But I think when he looks back after being out for over a year, banking the 12 rounds, 3 knockdowns, I think he'll be okay.
Last one for me, the potential chance that you do book the Munguia fight next. If it's not Munguia, who you got plan B or plan C?
I mean, I love the Gennady-Golovkin fight. I love Billy Joe Saunders, maybe John Ryder. I think Munguia is the right fight. It's two guys that are searching for that big fight. It's Mexico against Puerto Rico. It's absolute fireworks.
Really
exactly.
Good,
We'd love to do that at a press conference.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, he's going to be in a lot of fun fights. He's got great support. And I think one of the best things about tonight was the pockets of fans. I know it was like mostly Puerto Rican, but there was 400 Albanian
Poles
fans,
and
400 Poles. Yeah, exactly. So what a great atmosphere.
Good show. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
I got you here. Eamon Khan here for seconds out. Look, there were people online calling for maybe the Quigley victory before round 12 hit.
Bizarre. I mean, that's what happens, really. I just think that's kind of like a bit like a Matchroom thing and his own thing, where I felt like Jason Quigley won 4 rounds. 5. Maybe not, but definitely 7 to 11. Edgar didn't really do a lot. But the problem is, Edgar won, the other, whatever it was, going into the 11th, I don't know, 7 rounds, 6, 7 rounds, with 2 10-8 rounds. So I felt like if Jason won the last round, I probably would have scored it 115, 113 to Edgar. But it was a 10-8 round in the last round, so I don't know what to score it. 116, 112, 116, 112, 116. I thought the scores were wide, but you can't, at no point was Jason up in the fight, but I thought he did really, really well.
I saw you getting your Emmanuel Stewart on during the Konecki-Cusimano fight, saying go to the body. What was going through your head during that fight?
I just wanted him to win so bad. I don't represent Adam Konecki, I just really like him. Do you know what I mean? And I knew that was probably going to be his last fight tonight, and I just wanted him to win so bad, and I kept thinking the fight should be stopped, maybe even after the first round. But then he comes back in the fight, and then later on in the fight, I thought the fight should be stopped. And then with a minute to go, he comes back in the round, looks like he might stop Cusimano. I think the ending did go on a little bit too long, but when you know it's someone's last fight, it's very difficult not to let him go out on his shield. And he's a very brave man. Big respect to Cusimano. I loved the fight, loved it. I mean, like I said, it wasn't the most skillful heavyweight fight, but what drama. And I'm actually sitting there thinking, we really need a heavyweight fight on every card, because they can be a lot of fun, especially when they're like that.
Would you put him in with AJ?
Who?
Cusimano?
No. Dubois knocked him out in a round. So he's not, he's nowhere near elite world level. But Fabio Wardley, Thomas Carty, someone called out, I know we've got Jermaine Franklin coming back that we got fights with. Cusimano, who we have options with now, will be in some big fights. It was a good win for him tonight.
The ball is now in Ruiz's court, so it's Wilder's team. Do you think that fight gets online? Who's the
it's
favourite
very strange. I mean, I don't see that fight happening at all. Deontay Wilder, as I understand it, has pretty much agreed his price with Saudi Arabia or there or thereabouts. We've got meetings all this week. with representatives from Saudi Arabia to close that fight. That fight's happening in December. If they haven't done a deal for Ruiz against Wilder, when is that fight going to take place? I can't see it happening until September, October, and that can't really bring the AJ fight into play. So all very strange. We'll find out this week. Our focus right now is on August 12th.
Big risk for Wilder?
Yeah, big risk, big risk.
Can I get your thoughts on Jarrell Miller said in response to yourself that you're a hypocrite for not working with him when you're working with Conor Benn at the moment. Are those two fair comparisons? Well,
firstly, I mean, he's been cleared by the WBC for traces of a substance that you'll find out probably in the next 10 days that I believe Conor Benn will be completely exonerated. Jarrell Miller has failed about 3 different drug tests for 3 different fights, and on the AJ fight was actually injecting things inside his body. And he did that to create a physical advantage over Anthony Joshua, and it's something that don't sit well for me. Jarrell Miller, you know, situation is very different, and I don't believe him, and that's my right. I believe Conor Benn. I've been through this whole process with him. I've seen all the reports, and you guys will see, and hopefully some of you will be apologising soon. It'll be so sweet if that is the case, but we'll see. But Jarrell Miller, in my opinion, because I'm entitled to it, different kettle of fish, and I love Jarrell Miller. I think he's a lovely bloke, but in my opinion, I'll stop right there.
Has White signed for AJ?
No, he got the contract this morning. Look, they've got to review it. I'm not expecting it signed back today, but we need some comments back tomorrow because we need to get his fight up and running. We've got 2 other guys ready to sign. AJ's fight will be announced next week. Hopefully it's Dillian White. I have my doubts, but if they want it, it's there.
Final thing, look, Roy Jones Jr. is fighting again in a metaverse fight. Have you heard about that?
What's that?
You tell me.
Roy Jones is fighting in a metaverse fight. Was that on this planet or?
I don't know. No.
I remember when I spoke to you, you said that if Berlanga didn't look spectacular, then we can't really talk about Munguia fight.
No, I said we can't talk about Canelo fight.
Oh, there you go. How look to you overall?
Decent, but a bit rusty. It was a weird performance from like round 7 to 11. He didn't really do a lot, and as soon as he let his hands go, you could see how hard he punches. He had Quigley hurt every time, so a bit frustrating. But 3 knockdowns, wide unanimous decision, out for a year. He gave it a C. I'll give it a B.
Is it a little bit disappointing, only from the standpoint of English on drive, destroyed Quigley in about 2 rounds?
Yeah, but also he broke his jaw in the first round. He didn't have a trainer. He couldn't make weight. And Demetrius is an elite world-class fighter. I mean, I put Demetrius as a pound-for-pound top fighter, but I think Jason showed tonight at 168 that he's a lot more sturdy. He looked really good tonight, and I won't go into the problems he had going into Demetrius' fight, but he shouldn't really have been in there that night.
Do you think he's ready for a Munguia right now?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think Munguia looked that great against a very worn Derevenchenko. Yeah, but he's still a good. This is a 50-50 fight from what we saw tonight. That's what you want, isn't it? You know.
Back-to-back hometown fight cards, and last week it's obviously New Orleans and Prograis. This weekend we had Edgar Berlanga here in New York. Is the plan to bring him back to New York to build up more of a fan base here, more of an attraction, and if so, more theater fights?
Yeah, I want to go into the main room with a Munguia fight. You know, I think we could do that fight in LA, we could do it in Vegas. We've also had an approach to do his next fight in Puerto Rico, which I think would be a lot of fun. Obviously, we sold out tonight. It was an incredible atmosphere. You know, it really depends on the speed that we move him in. I think the Munguia fight is a massive fight. Golovkin, massive fight as well. And he's going to be, when you see him against guys that are coming forward trying to win and be aggressive, I think you're going to see him in some great fights.
Just a quick one. Are there any more fights for Jason?
I thought Jason was exceptional tonight, and I thought at 168, I thought he looked so much better. Like, going back to, not to discredit Demetrius' win, like, he shouldn't have been really boxing that day. He had no Andy Lee. The weight was a problem. Obviously, he broke his jaw in the first round. But I thought he looked really good, and I think as he grew in confidence, he was very awkward. Like, I think Edgar Berlanga's head just went down a little bit in that backstage of the fight, which it shouldn't have, because Jason started boxing really well. And you know, I think him and Andy Lee are a great team. I was saying to one of the guys, you know, people like Billy Joe Saunders are looking for a comeback fight to get in, and Quigley's the kind of guy. We've got Katie Taylor probably fighting in Ireland, in Dublin, in November. Maybe he lands on that fight. Looks like he might have busted his nose, but I thought it was a really good performance.
There's been blows tonight, and you did not put your phone down, this evening. Do you have a message though on camera for Oscar De La Hoya?
No, honestly, I just hope he's okay. I hope he can be happy. I mean, you shouldn't really worry about me. Like, if you look at his timeline, all week he's been tweeting about me. I love it, because for people who don't know me, he's obviously, probably 80% of my following's from the UK. So there's probably a lot of people going, who is this guy that Oscar De La Hoya keeps tweeting around? If they follow me as well, it's fantastic. But he's clearly not happy. Like, you can't just sit there and be miserable and tweet someone that absolutely have no relevance in his life. I don't know him. We don't really talk. Like, I've never,
Iron Bush, and I honestly don't remember fights getting cancelled over a rap.
No. But I think you can appeal it, and Errol Spence made some interesting comments recently about the belts and stuff. I mean, you've seen the biggest fight of the year have no belts between Tank and Ryan Garcia. Do you care if it's not undisputed against Beterbiev Bivol? We'd prefer it to be. I know the fighters would much prefer it to be, but when it comes down to it, if it's a case of losing it or making it,
Regis Prograis is coming off of a victory in New Orleans. We're hearing that Devin Haney could possibly move up to 140 pounds. How real is that fight?
Yeah, Devin wants the fight. I spoke to Devin, I spoke to Bill Haney yesterday. They want to fight Regis Prograis. It's just really a case now of money, mainly, and seeing if we can get the fight made. We also love the fight with Jack Catterall, our UK guy. I think he deserves the fight. Regis was a little bit disappointing last week. Zarilla didn't really come to fight, but I think he needs a big fight next.
Would that be a multi-fight deal or a fight-by-fight basis?
Not if it means making, like the same thing I said, like if it's the difference between making a fight and not making a fight. Of course, we've paid to bring the WBC world title to DAZN in a very important division. So I don't really want to let it go, but I'm up for gambling. Like, I think Regis can win the fight. And if it means, obviously now with no Canelo in September, DAZN are now rolling up their sleeves, looking at the budget, saying, okay, we've got that Canelo pot, let's go and make some big fights, whether that's Bivol against Beterbiev, whether that's Devin Haney against Regis Prograis, whether that's Munguia against Edgar Berlanga. They're the kind of fights that I think you guys and the subscribers would love on that slate.
Eddie, we know that Regis isn't too excited about the prospects of fighting Rolly, and we know that Rolly's got a mandatory against a guy you're very familiar with.
O'Hara, yeah.
O'Hara Davis.
O'Hara will
Would
beat.
you be interested in making that fight happen?
Which fight?
Rolly against Programs.
Yeah, I think it's a good fight. I mean, look, I don't mean to be nasty about Rolly, because I think I like him. I think he's really funny, but he's not very good at that level. Like, no, that's a bit harsh. He's not as good as Regis and those guys. O'Hara Davis will beat Rolly. Promise you. O'Hara Davis will knock Rolly out. And I don't represent O'Hara. I've never really got on with O'Hara. Well, I used to represent him, but we had a bit of an argument. Now we're friends. And now he's going at Leonard Ellaby, which is fantastic. And there's a purse bid, I think, on Friday. Yeah. And they're really in a shitty position because no one really, you guys don't really know who. No, probably not. But no one really knows who O'Hara Davis is over here. Yeah. So it's not worth a lot of money to the PBC, that fight. Yet he probably loses. And then they have to give up a belt in the 140-pound division. Do you know what I'm saying? So, it'd be interesting to see what happens this week.
How does Richardson Hitchens fit in the division?
Well, I mean, I think he was here tonight. Obviously we've got the Montana Love situation. And I think the winner of that could look to fight Regis Prograis as well. We've also got Liam Paro, our Australian fighter. We've got Steve Spark. Got Dalton Smith fighting next week, who's an outstanding talent as well. We've got loads of fighters at 140. So, the priority obviously is Regis Prograis champion.
Eddie, speaking of freeing up your budget, you mentioned the other day that you were speaking with Francis Ngannou. Do you have any updates on that?
No, I spoke to him Thursday, something like that. Nothing really. No, I mean, we had a really good chat a few months ago, but I haven't really got any heavyweight fights for him in terms of boxing.
How would you pair him up for his first major boxing?
Well, I said to him, when I chatted to him, I thought he might have a couple of fights first, but I think the problem with that, it's a bit like Nate Diaz, yeah? They don't really want to go and have a couple of fights because you'll get to see how good they are, and then they lose the big payday. So like Nate Diaz is a good example. If you see Nate Diaz hit pads, or you watch him fight Jake Paul, he's done the right thing, because if you would have seen him fight someone else, you would have gone, fuck, like. So he's got the money straight away, which is really what Ngannou wants to do. Ngannou doesn't want to just go and have a fight in 8 rounds for 5 million. He wants 20 or 30 or 40 million to fight one of the big boys.
Johnny Fisher and Ngannou, would that sell in?
Johnny Fisher, yeah, that would sell out Wembley.
What do you think of Jake versus Nate? How do you break that fight down?
I feel bad saying it because I like Nate Diaz, but it's a terrible mismatch.
Eddie,
In terms of Jake getting him?
Oh yeah, and we talk about Jake Paul.
Eddie, you haven't had the...
No, but it's not. I don't care about what I think of him. As a fighter, he just lost to Tommy Fury.
Right.
Listen, I'm only going by what I've seen on pads. But if you know boxing, then I think that's a very one-sided fight.
Hey Eddie, we heard from Oscar. He said, "Hey, Lonesome Eddie, you couldn't deliver Edgar Berlanga to Canelo, and now you're throwing Munguia's name. Good luck."
Oh, he's gone again, has he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
speaking of
Well, I mean, Jaime Munguia's fucked, really, because he's got nowhere. Like, I don't know what they're doing with him. I've never seen a career managed so badly as the career of Jaime Munguia, and I really like Jaime Munguia. I think he's very exciting, but yeah. They need a big fight, and I think after that I think they might think they win the Edgar Berlanga fight. Right, go.
After the fight, you actually said Estrada fight is a priority.
Yeah.
So what is the plan for Estrada?
What is the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking to fight him in Mexico, maybe in September, October. But I like the Ioka fight as well. So maybe there's an offer from Japan for that fight.
You don't mind if you go into Japan?
No problem.
There is a big fight.
No problem at all.
What about Junto Nakatani? He had a spectacular, probably KO of the year performance on the undercard of Haney and Loma. Fancy a fight with one of your guys?
Yeah, another good fighter. Another good fight. I mean, the great thing about the smaller divisions is everyone's up for fighting everybody. But the good news is the best fight in that division has been made, which is Bam Rodriguez against Sonny Edwards. I think it's a tremendous fight, and we'll announce the date for that soon.
Eddie, just can we get a couple of words on Canelo, his supposed 3-fight deal with PBC? How do you think he fares against the lineup? It's rumored to be Jamal, maybe Benavidez, and then mystery opponent could be Earl.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think. I mean, I'm only going on what I've been told, that the opponents haven't been agreed. I don't know if it's 3 fights or whatever, but I think it's a good spot for him, because I think he's got a chance to plan out those opponents. Looks like it's going to be Charlo first. I'm pretty confident he beats him, especially with Charlo's layoff. I think Benavidez is a good fight, a tough fight. I'm not sure I see that fight happening. And then Errol, does he move to 168? I mean, like
he did say earlier, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that he's more of a natural 160 to 168 fighter.
That's what we thought when Kell Brook fought Gennady Golovkin. It's a big difference. It's a big difference.
And, AJ, we've been hoping to see him fight late last year, early this year, into the spring, officially in summer now. If the White fight doesn't happen, what names are we looking at?
Just a name from the top 15. I want someone that's in the top 15 in multiple organisations. We're going to fight Wilder in December, so we're not going to fight like Ergovic or Usyk or Rui, you know what I mean? So, but I still want a guy that we can showcase what we've been working on with Derek James and can prepare him for the Wilder fight, because confidence-wise, training-wise, it's going to put him in a great position for the December fight if he fights in August. And he will fight in August. And now we want 3 fights this year. And he's boxed in April, boxed in August, boxed in December. That'd be a great year for him.
Bacoli?
Maybe. He's a good fighter, Bacoli. And the problem is no one reads what we talked about earlier. I can't remember who we said, but who you've never heard of. We said,
what up?
We're talking about...
we talk about someone we've never heard of who's a tough fight. A bit like David Morrell, yeah? Another example. David Morrell might be the best 168 in the world. There's no way Benavidez is fighting David Morrell. Do you know what I mean? But and I don't blame him, because if he's the best, like, I'm not saying Bacoli's the best, but he's a good fighter. Like, and no one, you don't even get the credit are beating him. You know?
Eddie, going back, is that December card